So one thing to just touch on very briefly before we go into polygons is that notice how I put all of my little line work into this line work folder. If you messed up and you accidentally had your points layer selected while you digitized in a feature, so say that one of these was in your points folder and you wanted to move it, all you can do, you can just open that folder up and drag it back into line work. And the way that Illustrator works is it's hierarchical, meaning that layers that are higher up on your layers panel show up like above, show up first on your map and cover up other features. So you can actually change the order of these to change how the overlap works for these different features. That's that. Let's turn this layer off and start on digitizing our polygon features. So for me, I have a really complicated map to draw because my island has no straight lines on it. So I'm going to start with digitizing the actual base fill, and it's going to take me a second, so I'm going to pause. All right, there we go. How I did that was using the pencil tool, because notice how this is freehand and not those straight lines that you'd get from the pen tool. So I had clicked N and just drawn around and placed in the island in here. And for this particular map, it's important to have a base map color because the sort of like the background of this map is blue because it's water. For most of you, this probably won't be an issue, but if you're like me and have water in your background, you're going to want to draw a box that is sort of the base color of your map. And the way to do that is you would use the rectangle tool and draw a box just like that. And it showed up as blue, but what I didn't say before is that you can use this appearance panel to adjust anything. And in this case, when we're adjusting polygons that we've created by drawing lines that connect back to the beginning of themselves, you can change the fill. So I didn't want to have a stroke on any of this, but I can change the fill to whatever color I want. So chose a nice little blue, and that's in there now. And notice how this rectangle showed up at the top of the polygons, and now it's covering everything. If I drag that down, look at that. Now the island that I drew comes in before, higher up, and that rectangle shows up in the background. I'm going to delete it because I already created one. Turn it back on. There we go. For me, I also wanted to digitize in some of the lakes and some parts of Acadia National Park. So I'm going to turn these layers off so you can see our base map again. And then I just drew and outlined the lakes that I thought were important. There they are, these three: Eagle Lake, Jordan Pond, and Bubble Pond. And then I changed their fill by clicking on the fill icon there. And then I also did the same thing for the park. But with the park, to digitize those boundaries, I used the pen tool to make straight lines out of it. So I just pressed P on my keyboard or selected it up here, and then digitized in, going click, 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 click. And notice how it's filling in as I go. Kind of cool, right? And then you can finish it by clicking at the beginning. You can also press V or go back to the selection tool. There it is, and then we can change this to a green or something like that. I'm going to delete that because I already had it. Okay. There's the finished part of what that looks like. If you're doing multiple features that you want to be the same color, a very handy tool that you can use is called the Eyedropper tool. And to access that, you go over here, see this little guy, Eyedropper, or you can press I on your keyboard. And then when you have something selected, you can actually use the Eyedropper tool to change its appearance to match that of something else on the map. So notice I just clicked the background, and it matched the fill of the whole appearance, really, of that island background to match the water. So if I go to click the mainland there, get it back. If I want it to be green, there it is. The eyedropper tool is really handy, and we'll talk a little bit more about it later. I'm going to switch back to press V, get back to the selection tool. There we go. So now we have our polygons and our line work.